How are you doing tonight? Good? That's fantastic. Maybe just so I get a little bit of feel of who's here tonight, who of you among here, the public, are actually in the process of planning of setting up a brokerage, a real estate FX brokerage? Okay. And how many of you guys are considering expanding your offering with a new trading platform? And are there some that are considering expanding a new instrument into the existing asset group? Okay. So those are the ones that I'll try and see if I can address today. What I would start with is, throughout the years where I've been working with brokerage, there are different kind of people that I meet with different skill sets and competences. You have the one that don't know but have money. It could be people from other verticals like gaming or more exotic business areas. They have a good competence, for instance, from acquiring clients or other aspects that they want to leverage going into the resale FX market. Then you have the one that know but don't have any money. So those are, for instance, a very successful IB of an existing broker. Or it could be your head of sales or head of marketing that wants to spin off and really leverage their competences. Then you have the one that don't know and don't have any money. And I think you have that in every industry. It's the ever optimist that's looking for new opportunities. And of course, those exist within resale FX as well. And then you have the one who know and have money. Those are the ones I would normally categorize as medium-sized brokerages or maybe a larger banking institution that would like to enter into the market. Maybe they already have a significant traditional cash equity offering, and they want to see if they can add a new revenue stream to their product. And what I've seen very often is that a lot of them, they become people who thought they knew and thought they have money, because entering into the market, especially if you have a larger brand, can be a quite intriguing and complicated process. What the research says generally in startups and entering into new businesses is that around 70% of all new businesses, they fail. And from what I've seen so far, talking with different integration solution providers like Leverett, FTT, Boston Technology, having been working at Saxo Bank for many years, is that unfortunately is also the case in retail FX. So what I will try today is I'll try to give some of the main considerations that I would advise people considering entering into the market, what they should think of before they actually go to the step of incorporation, formation, doing the actual implementation process. And I'll try as a starting point. Of course, I have a lot of slides. It's going to be a very long presentation, so I hope you have a lot of energy. I'll start with basically what you see here is you have a lot of the people that are at the expo today. You have a new startup brokerage here, wallstreet.com. And then you have the entire subset of different service providers, technology providers, and so forth. And when you want to enter into the market, at one point in time, you're most likely going to talk with one and also several of these different entities that you have here. So the picture of going into the market is quite complex. And what I'll try to address throughout my presentation is as much you can do in regards of planning and scoping prior to actually doing the implementation, the better your odds would be in regards of having success, or at least having a better understanding of what it would take to have success within this market. So what normally happens in our industry when you want to start up, the main or most used way of entry into the market is going to one of the integrated solution providers. Or you would go to one of the traditional large brokers, the Saxo Bank, FXCM, the IG Markets, the CMC, and ask for a white label, or you could also take a sub-tier and get a white label through them. That's the traditional route in to starting up a brokerage company. And what normally happens is you engage with these clients, they give you a fantastic system, a very good price, and it's all implemented and it's ready. And then you're good to go, and then what happens when you've gotten your license and you're ready to get started is you want to add a new trading platform. You get confused in the integration process. It's not that easy. Maybe you want to add some social. You have a lot of systems. Maybe you want to have a call center system installed. Maybe you should consider doing a software as a service, one of these cloud offerings. You need to have chat systems. You need to have CRM systems. And all these systems, of course, they cost quite significantly. You want to add a new product. You need to figure out which niche media you want to go into. You have your marketing analytics that you have to buy. For some, it's too complicated, so you need to build your own and implement it into your system. You have your professional services helping you with internal audit, external audit, a lot of the regulatory demands that they are. And then, of course, you have your payment providers helping you to actually get funds. So for all of these, it becomes a little bit complicated when you start as a broker. And what you normally see, and it was the same from a Saxo Bank perspective where I've been working, is that it's focused here, but when you start, they forget all the other components, and it's very much up for yourself to figure out how to do it. So, what should you do? What should be your main consideration? And before digging into some of the details from the different trading platforms, I'd say one common denominator, one very often a pitfall or mistake for all the different things that you are implementing is that people, they tend to forget who it is that they are selling to. They forget to ask what it is their needs are at a very early stage in the whole process of designing what it is you want to offer to them. And if you take an example, a very important example, then you could take the trading platform. Which one of the features in the trading platform is important to your client? Should you use the Dania front-end execution? Do you want to use the traditional MT4? Do you want to use a Saxo Bank execution model? Do you want to use the PFSoft guys? There's so many different platforms, quite a lot, and there are many different features in there. And the best way to test it, along with a lot of the other components, is client engagement. Client engagement, you could say there are different approaches. And the ideal approach would be like to do a big survey, do a big segmentation study, figure out what the core trader segments are and their needs, but it's a costly procedure, and it's also a timely procedure. And if you're small and you want to start up, then maybe it's a little bit too complicated for you, and it's also a little bit too resourceful. But what you can do is there are quite a significant amount of tools where you have interactive bulletin boards, you could do wall chats, you could buy a software that's not necessarily very expensive, and you could start with your client engagement as to what it is that you want to offer to them early in the stage, before you start with the formation of the company, before you start with the implementation of your product. And you could do it basically from a qualitative perspective and having an ongoing engagement with 10, 15, 30 clients. But let's go back a little bit as to the main consideration, what it is you should look for and think of when starting, and what you should test through your client engagement. So this is, you could say, my definition. Make a minimum viable product, like call it a prototype, that you would like to test with your clients. And what should be in the prototype? You need to have a front-end solution and supporting systems, like an MT4 or DevExperts cTrader. And you need to have the instruments you want to put inside: gold, silver, Eurodollar, maybe CFDs, and some of the ancillary things, whatever leverage and the pricing components. And then you need to figure out what kind of trade execution model you want to have. Is it no dealing desk, STP, or is it market making? And from those perspectives, those are the key things that you need to define. And maybe just a few words in regards of the considerations that you have to do when looking at the trading platforms and setting up the accounts. If you look at the different trading platforms, what is definitely advisable is of course, to create a request for proposal. Ask a few of the white label providers, ask a few of the integration solution providers what their offering are, and scope out what it is that you need. What you have to bear in mind is brokers, they have different, or people that want to enter into the market, they have a range set of core competences. Some are very strong from a marketing perspective, some they have a dealing background, and all depending on what your budget is and what your competences are, then there is a revenue stream and a complexity in the different models that maybe fit you or might not fit you. So if you take the white label solution, as a normal white label solution, what you would traditionally see is the revenue streams are not as high as having an MT4 where the potential is a little bit higher. On the other hand, when you look at the complexity, what you get in the full value chain of all the solutions are a little bit more integrated, as a lot of them, they have an existing client base that they're selling to. So they're used to servicing the entire value chain and not just the component. On the other hand, if you have some of the integrated solution providers offering an MT4 or some of the other systems, you have to pay a technology fee. And a technology fee can also be quite pricey over time. So it depends on your maturity of the level, not to mention setup fees and ongoing fees and so forth. So, but regardless of what you choose, if you want to go with a solution provider, if you want to go with a white label offering, or if you want to buy it directly with MetaQuotes and do the integration yourself and not pay a technology provider, you have to put it in context with whatever skills you have from your side and map that out, because it will make a big difference as to what will be suitable for you. If you look at the account types, then many white label providers and many of the integrated solution providers, they have a very large range of instruments that they can offer. I think at Saxo Bank now they have more than 30,000 instruments that they can offer. And if you have a very simple retail client going into the market, having 30,000 different instruments might be a little bit too much. In addition to that, you have the different margin rules. You want to have one margin account set up 1 to 100, 1 to 300, 1 to 500, maybe 1 to 1,000. So if you add that, you add the CFD financing, you add the Tom Next, you add the stop out levels, you can make a very, very, very complex structure of a lot of different account types. That makes it very complicated for the client to understand, very complicated for your staff in your entity to sell and to service and to maintain. And basically the complexity for the client to understand what your value proposition is will become too difficult. Then you have the choice in the trade execution model, whether you want to do a no dealing desk / STP, or if you want to become a market maker. And again here, if you don't have a long experience from a dealing side, it can become a very costly experience to try out the challenges that are embedded in being a market maker. Just if you take an ordinary no dealing desk where it's STP based, you still have risk on the client. The client risk is not going to disappear. If you give a client a leverage on Apple, say you give him 1 to 50 or 1 to 100, and the market gaps and it opens up the next morning, then basically you will have a default risk on the client. The client will owe you 3 million. You will have an exposure towards the broker where you've hedged it, but maybe the client is not in a situation where he can pay the $3 million, and then you're in a very bad situation. And that's not even being a market maker. That's just simple, pure STP, and it also involves a lot of risk that you have to bear in mind and consider significantly. And it was one of the things that we saw at some of the larger brokers back in 2008, where we had the collapse of Lehman, and all of a sudden you saw companies that you thought were in the market were no longer there. So when you look at the basic things, the core things that you should test as a minimum to your client, a minimum viable product, those should be the ones that it should be comprised of. And you have to test that with your clients as a minimum before you go on. Then, before you actually start your company, before you incorporate it, before you start the tedious registration process, then it's not necessarily needed to go into the same level of detail as the prototype, the minimal viable product. But it's a very good suggestion to have a strong and good idea as to what the different components are and how they will affect your business. And so I tried to find a way, because there's so many different offerings, so many different softwares and so forth. So if we look at it, you would have your different client channels. You would have your direct client channel. You are selling to small resale clients. And you could have your partner channel, which could be underlying white label partners and IBs and so forth. If we just take the direct channel and look at the segments there, maybe you have 5 or 6 segments, but just say you have newbies and professionals, then again, the different needs and the different systems could change a little bit. Maybe for the professionals, you would have 2 or 3 trading platforms, and for the newbies, maybe even the MT4 is too complicated. Maybe you just need a very, very, very simple web-based trading platform. So if we take the client life cycle and the sales process, then you have different phases where you have different interaction within the entity to the clients. And if we look at the systems, so what you have to scope out before you start with the actual formation of the company and the regulatory process is at least figure out what systems you're going to need for the rest of your business. So from a marketing perspective, what are you going to do for the analysis of your website? What are you going to do for the analysis of the PPC spend you have? What about the analysis of the affiliates that you have, your affiliate network? What about the analysis of your media buying? It's a substantial amount of money to go in and buy Google DoubleClick, or you had the Adobe AdLens here in the corner. It's not cheap systems when you're going into the market. But if you want to have something that's very sophisticated, then at least if that's your plan, you need to scope out what the costs are so you're a little bit more realistic about it from the starting point. Then you have your different communication venues. You have your chatting system, you have your call center system, maybe you have some sophisticated email engines and so forth that you would like to integrate into your offering. And you need a website. Maybe it's Drupal, maybe it's SharePoint, maybe it's something different. Maybe you have some excellent tech guys that can do it by themselves. You need different payment options, webinar tools, and so forth. Then going all the way through from your retention perspective and service perspective, there are a lot of different systems that you have to factor in before you actually start up. Because if you don't do it before, it's going to be a little bit of a nasty surprise to yourself. And if you have some investors backing you, it's going to be an even more nasty surprise having to go back saying that you didn't factor it in. Then the policies and procedures. There are a lot of policies and procedures. In Saxo Bank, we have this thing called an internal audit where they come down and they review all the things that you have in your company. And we had a little bit more than 150 or so procedures and policies that they were measuring on. And just to take a few as an example, it's not necessarily to know what all the details are of the policies and the procedures, but what you have to consider is how the policies and procedures, how they are playing with the different systems that you buy, and also with the actual trading platform, how the interaction is and how complicated it is. Then you have some collateral. You don't want to start up using a lot of money from a marketing perspective, getting good leads in, and then when the sales guys, they talk with them over the phone and they don't really have any ammunition to shoot them with. You don't have any free ebooks, you don't have any platform tutorials, you don't have any educational tutorials. There are many different things where you have to decide, do you want to buy it from a third party, do you want to develop yourself, or what will be your approach in regards of all the client collateral that you want to give to your client segments. If it's newbies, maybe it's more basic. If it's advanced, maybe you want to offer them auto chartist or some webinars with a fantastic guy. And then you have, as the last point in regards of the rest of the core offering, you have a metric map. And there's so many important metrics in the different components of the departments. So you would have your marketing department, you would have your sales department, you would have your retention department. Also from a back office perspective, you would also give them certain metrics to make sure that they follow up on how fast the outgoing payments are, the incoming payments, what's the acceptance rates. There are many different things, how the website is working, the stability of the trading platform that you need to monitor and you need to measure your business on. And what a lot of these metrics, when you start making your metric map, what it also gives you the opportunity to do is you might have a good idea of what your cost per acquisition is. And if you're entering into the market, maybe you've been at a broker with a significant brand that had a cost per acquisition of $300, $400, maybe $250 in certain market if it was not that competitive. If you're going into the market and you're expecting the same cost per acquisition, then I think you're going to be met with somewhat of a nasty surprise. So it's a good thing to have the metrics, and it's a good thing to go out and have the discussion with the integrating solution provider if that's the winner you're going down with, or the white label partner. And especially if you have a good idea of the different metrics that you're going to measure your business with, it's also something you can incorporate together with the policies and procedures in the request for proposal that you're sending out to the different providers that you're going to be working with. Because it will give you a very good indication and validation of your business model. So some of the main considerations before you should incorporate your entity, your company. So we have a guy here, he would like to start a brokerage. He's made his minimal viable product or his prototype. He's engaged with clients, gotten some feedback. He's modified, so now he has this fantastic car that brings him back to the future. And then he's added it with some of the things, so he has a fantastic ebook. So now he also has the train that could bring him forward again. And then at this point in time, this is where I would advise that you would be ready to go in and start the regulatory process and actually start the implementation phase with one of the integrated solution providers and build the co-offering. But it doesn't necessarily end here when you want to launch your product. Basically, you would have your license. It's obtained. Depends on some of your jurisdictions. You have to have everything ready and tested for some time before you get the license. In other jurisdictions, you actually have to have a lot in place to test, and then you get the license, and then you get it afterwards. So but normally you would test, you would build your offering around the licensing period or after the licensing period. And then you would have to recruit the additional staff. Maybe you have a good CMO, but you need something very good, a strong CFO. Maybe you have a good dealer, you need a strong sales and marketing guy that will start building the team that you need. And they need to be trained, and you also need to test the entire offering, of course, before you start the launch. So you launch it, you get a lot of heavy clients, and they keep on coming and they keep on trading. You get 500 clients, you grow 5% per month for 4 years, and in 2008 you will have 5,000 clients. We've all seen all these business plans where there's a tremendous hockey stick effect, but it doesn't really happen, very often at least, especially in our market. And I don't know, have any of you heard about the green tomato principle of Toyota? No? So at Toyota, what they basically say you have a red tomato and you have a green tomato. And the green tomato, eventually they become red. You know, they become ripe, they become ready, they become done, basically. But at Toyota, their approach to their business model is that their product is never red. They are always, and they will always want to be perceived as a green tomato because they always want to improve themselves. And it's the final thing that I would like to say today, that it's from a success perspective, it will be the constant iteration in your different business models, in the different areas, the processes that you have, that will lead you to success. And that's basically it for me.
Any questions? Surely there must be questions out of that one slide with all the rings. That was complicated. No?
I'm just wondering, what do you say would be the minimum capital needed?
This industry now as it is?
I'm not planning for it.
Okay. I would say you would definitely need to go above. Of course, it depends on your scope and the market. If you're in emerging markets, where it's not as competitive as here in Europe, it's a lesser amount. Depends on the regulatory requirements. I don't advise anybody to go unregulated into the market, but some people, they decide to do. But if you want to go into a regulated market and you want to start within this space, in the European side of the world, I would say somewhere between $5 to $7 million or so. There will be to start up, to have something to have your capital. You know, if you have a small license, that requires some capital. If you want to have a larger license, it's closer to €1 million. You need to have offices and all these things, and there's a lot of systems that you have to pay, and that's just starting up. So you very quickly used, you know, on the safe side, somewhere between $1 to $2 million before you even get started. And then you get started, you have to start promoting your brand. You have to do a lot from a marketing perspective. And if you believe in, especially in Europe, where there's significant competition, if you can go into the market and believe you could have a marketing budget of $5,000, $10,000 on a monthly basis, it's not going to be substantial from a starting point. So, but if you are in India, if you are in some of the other markets where the growth is significantly different, and you have a larger public, then it's definitely doable with lesser of an amount.
Any other questions? No? Thank you very much, Patrick. You were the last presentation of the day, and this is the toughest one.